Important games are the next tier in an already successful season, and they're coming next in the 22-game sprint. It is Locked On Jazz. Pow!
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, how are you? We're back. It's the February 23rd edition of Locked On Jazz. The 22-game sprint is upon us. We'll look at the important games, what it means, no Colin Sexton, and how the Jazz survive that. The Thunder are in town for 3 of our next 5 games. Are they the model the Jazz are following right now? And is it deemed a success already? What's to watch in the West? Schedule strength, important games, and one player who I think will pop in the final 22 and change the landscape of the West. That's all coming up on today's edition of Locked On Jazz. I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider, and this is Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. It's the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks so much for tuning in and making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Hope you had a great All-Star weekend. Congratulations to the organization. The amount we talked about, we did a show before the break about the people. And the amount of people that put in incredible efforts and time, and Ryan and Ashley Smith's vision, and all indications are a raging success. For those that were interested in finding out how great our city is, they found out. For those who were interested in seeing how great our city was, it was on full display. The inversion stayed out for most of the time, which is pretty great for us. And it was beautiful, and it sounds like it was hopping. Quite honestly, I did not participate in a lot. I went down on Friday night, went to the Jazz party for a moment, was super great. Just another sign of how well run our organization is and what everyone's, and the effort and the thank you. I think if you're a Jazz, I think the great thing about right now about our organization is if you work really hard, you feel thanked. And I think that party showed that to me. It was a super nice effort by everybody who built that over at the new La Meridian Hotel, which is gorgeous. My gosh, the view out of the top deck there was just incredible. If you were not from Utah and got that was remarkable. Then my wife and I walked around on Friday night. It was actually, the stories I'm hearing from people, we kind of missed it. We didn't get the vibe. We just saw a lot of black cars driving around to carry people different places. And then I didn't come down Saturday, and then I took off with my family on Sunday to spend some time. My dad's in town, still killing it, 83 years old, out skiing every day. So we went to Jackson. So I just hope everyone got to take a part. Ryan's vision was that everyone would feel it, everyone would touch it. It was fun being on tracks. I went in, parked over at the ballpark, took tracks in, had dinner at Lucky 13 that night, of course. We felt it. Like, that was the coolest part. You could feel the energy and the vibe, the dads with their kids, the moms with their kids, all kind of getting the vibe of All-Star Weekend. It was sweet. So now we have the 22-game sprint. This is really great. This has already been a wildly successful season because we really had 3 questions coming into the season. Can Will Hardy coach? I think that's a universal yes. Did the Jazz get any pieces in the Gobert and Donovan Mitchell trades that are keepers? And it may turn out on the Minnesota that Vanderbilt and Beasley just were used to be another draft pick. Balmero, we've let go. I think he's going to go play in Europe. And then, maybe not on the Minnesota end of things did we find a piece of the puzzle for the future. However, on the Cleveland end, we found one in Lauri Markkanen who got to display himself at All-Star Weekend and also on the three-point shooting guys. And I think we have another in Collin. I don't know that I think Collin's your starting point guard, but I'm pretty certain that the skills we've seen out of Collin and the way Will's been able to coach him, which I think has been masterful, is something that can be a viable, a piece of a successful puzzle in the future. So those 2 things right out of the bat, that's a win. And then the next question was, did any of the draft picks that we got to Walker Kessler, Ochai Agbaji, can either of those guys play? And the answer is clearly yes. Walker is showing it. And I think also Walker is showing how far he has to go. Like he moved into the starting lineup. There has not been a huge defensive spike by the Jazz since he moved into the starting lineup. Like it's hard. Like that's great. And there's no, this was exactly I think the Jazz have managed Walker perfectly. That they throw him into the starting lineup and get him to feel it. He was dominant when he was playing in the bench units. And I think it's been about 17 games since he's been in the starting lineup. We've been about a 500 team, which is terrific. And since he's been in the starting lineup, our defense is 24th in the NBA, which means we still have a long way to go. He wasn't the elixir, one person to fix it person. And then Ochai Agbaji is showing signs. Like there's a lot of development that still needs to go on, but there are signs. And that dunk he had against Ja Morant wowed people. You had Ron Boone got on the plane and literally wanted to go see that dunk. He has not done that very often. There was something about that dunk that kind of said something to Ron about who he was as a player. There's a lot of untapped in Ochai Agbaji. Like right now, the lack of free throws we talked about before we went to break, like that's not a sustainable model, but it's also probably not who he is. At some point, like the next step to watch with Ochai is he drives to the basket. Right now, he makes the right play every time, passes out, does all those kind of things. Is a little bit of ass to him, like where he goes to the basket and like, what, this is mine. But, as of right now, he hasn't taken a free throw in his last 7 or 8 games. He's taken 2 in his last, I think, 13. And so, when does he start to use his incredible body? But these are all developmental things. Like these are great. This is why this season is already a success. Now, the next step is this right now, which is important games. Lauri Markkanen learning is the number one guy, what it's like to play important games. 22 games to try to sprint and get yourself into the play-in to play a postseason game. You might be out there and be on, tank patrol and realize that, and I don't disagree with you, frankly. For us, if we went 3-19 the rest of the way, it's probably as beneficial to the long term of the franchise as going 13-9 and making the play-in. It's probably going to be 41 wins to get to the play-in. Like that seems to be the number that you kind of float around there, 41 wins. So it's a 12-10 close, maybe a 13-9 close. That's going to be tough. We haven't. That's asking a lot. Like we'll see whether we can do that. The Basketball Reference number is at 41. 42 would make me feel a lot better, frankly. The number at 538 to get in seems to be right around there. 40 and 41, same kind of number. They have the Nuggets as 1 seed, and then they have the Grizzlies at the 2. They have the Mavericks actually pulling this together as a pretty distant 3. The Suns at 4, Clippers at 5, Kings at 6, with the Warriors 7, Pelicans 8, Timberwolves 9, and Lakers 10 at 40. So 41 gets you in there. So 41, like 12-10 the rest of the way. Important games, 22 left. What does Walker learn about that? What does Lowry learn about? What does Will learn about that? Like this is great. And if we happen to go 6-16 and we get 14 important games before it's kind of over, then so be it. It's still, this is the next stretch of what's important to us is these important games. And they're going to be hard. No Colin Sexton really is going to put an undue burden on Jordan Clarkson and on Lauri Markkanen. And frankly, we don't talk about Jordan a lot. But like this is a big veteran leadership step for Jordan in his career. Can he carry the Jazz and make the plays that need to be made? He's going to be the go-to guy late. He's the one who can make a play. And the schedule the rest of the way is interesting. We have a massively long road trip, but it's not exhausting in the sense of like number of games. We're just out on the road forever, which might not be horrendous. I mean, my wife particularly thinks it's great. No, just kidding. But it might not be horrendous. Frankly, it just feels long. And I'm sure I'll whine about the length. We leave on March 2nd and we come back on March 14th. We get a lot of days off. We play 5 of our next 6 on the road. We've got a bunch of scheduling advantages. We've got 3 games against the Spurs. We have a game against Orlando, who's actually really good. A game against Charlotte, who's not. So we have 4 games against teams that are probably not real focused on winning. We've probably got to grab those. We have 4 games against the Thunder. We probably got to split those. Okay, well then now all of a sudden that's 6 wins. Are there another 6 to be had? Can you get another 6 from Dallas and Orlando and Miami on the road, Boston, Sacramento, Portland, Milwaukee at home, back to Sacramento, home against Phoenix, Boston and Brooklyn on the road again for another quick East Coast road trip. Lakers twice late with the Nuggets, like that. Woo! There are not a lot of gimmies in there. Strength of schedule the rest of the way is not on the Jazz side of things. But that's where we are. And that's going to be pretty great to watch as we play this down. The Jazz opponent winning percentage is just a little bit below 50%. We do play 10 of our final 22 games against plus 500 teams. We only have 2 back-to-backs. That's why I say it's not exhausting. You know, Sacramento's playing 25 games. Memphis is playing 25. Oklahoma City's playing 25. We play 3 of our next 5 against Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City plays 3 of their next 8 against us. In the same time period that we play 5, they play 8. So some of the scheduling things now come back to our side here in this stretch. So this is going to be great, and this is the next learning step of big moments, little stress, little anxiousness, a lot of fun. Every night matters. Play-in game is one of the greatest changes to the history of any sport, and we get to live it. And how fun would it be to play in a play-in game? Oh, it'd be great. So we'll talk about Thunder are the opponent tonight. Are they the model that the Jazz are following? That's what everyone says, but I do think there's a day coming up here where this gets a little tough on Oklahoma City. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Murdoch Hyundai, Murdoch Chevy, located at 40 out in Woods Cross, also located in Logan. The Murdoch family has been in Utah for over 80 years, and the Chevy truck is everything you could ever imagine. The Silverado, the Colorado, don't you wish you had one of those yesterday? Wow! I came home to so much snow. That was totally insane. And the Chevy truck bringing you all you could ever imagine with the Silverado and the Colorado. The Silverado's the big one. It is the granddaddy, the King Poobah, the ultimate lazy boy chair rolling through town. The Colorado's the zippier, fun one. The Chevy also has a great SUV lineup led off by the Blazer and the Trailblazer, but it's got the staples, the Tahoe and the Suburban. Go check it out at Murdoch Chevy, located in Woods Cross, also located in Logan. Feel free to email me first. We'll set you up with a VIP meeting to make sure you get a great experience at both. Today's show is also brought to you by Built Bar. Low in calories, high in protein. And now they've gone too far. They have the healthy donut. Yes, maple donut Built Bar puffs. Watch out, world. You got to try this. Plus, the animal cookie bar is out. I think it actually might have sold out already. That was their big one. I was there testing it. Grasshopper cookie is out. Love the grasshopper cookie. Built Bar. That's one of my all-time favorites. The brownie batter puff is there as well. And Built Bar is now available for you in multiple places. You can get it at Built.com with the promo code LOCKEDON15, as we've talked about in the past, and get yourself 15% off. But now you can also go check out Built Bar at Sam's Club. Grab a 13-box bar with brownie batter and churro. You can thank me later. You can also stop by your local Walmart and pick up a 4-box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puff, so you can continue to do it the good old-fashioned way by doing it with Built.com. It's all at our good friends over at Built with the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen today. Fired up for you to take your second listen with Locked On Sports Today, the 22-minute sports recap show of everything going on in the sports world. Get it all up to date for you. All right, Thunder are here. Thunder are interesting. If there's a signature to the Thunder right now, to me, and I'll ask Mark Daigneault, their head coach today, if there's a signature to him of their success this year, they're the 4th best half-court defense in the NBA, which is really interesting because they don't have a center. They're a terrible defensive rebounding team. They're 29th in the league in defensive rebounding, but they're 3rd in the league in forcing turnovers, which spurs their offense a little bit. They're in transition the 9th most of anyone in the NBA. And their defensive effective field goal percentage is 12th best. Quite honestly, defensively, they're the exact opposite of where we are right now. You know, I don't think Will's been able to get his defensive stamp on this team yet. According to Cleaning the Glass, we're 29th in the league at denying transition. Now, you know, Ron Boone's been on this all year. When you play Walker Kessler, Kelly Olynyk, and Lowry Markkanen in 3 7-footers that are not fleet of foot, you're going to get beat in transition. The Thunder are the opposite. They're the 2nd best team in the league at denying transition. So they're keeping you in the half court, and then they're the 4th best defensive team in the league in half court. And to me, that's kind of their signature. Their offense, they've got their stud in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We're all going to talk about it, 31 points a game, and he's their version of Lauri Markkanen, right? He's the piece they got in the Paul George trade that is turning out to be maybe better than people expected. I actually think people thought that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was going to be good, and there was even talk at the time, like, oh my gosh, how do you give that up? And the fact of the matter is that Sam Presti had Lawrence Frank on that one, because to get Kawhi Leonard, he had to get Paul George, and he knew it. So, that one becomes pretty clear. And then they're beginning to profit off the other picks, right? So they got a 2021 first-round pick, which has turned out to be Trey Mann. That one we'll see. Trey Mann, who is a 6'3" kind of point guard, shooting guard, who came to the league from Florida with this thought of being like a shooter. I don't know if just because he came from Bradley Beal. He really hasn't been able to shoot. Back-to-back years, he's shooting 39% for the field, and strangely this year he can't shoot the three at 31%. So, like, whether Trey Mann is a hit or a miss is now, I think, in doubt a little bit in his second year. Then they picked up Jalen Williams. Now, they have two Jalen Williams, which will be interesting tonight on how to call it. This is the Santa Clara Jalen Williams, and he has been a stud. 12th pick of the draft. They got this in the Clipper trade, and he has been superb. 12 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists a game. But more recently, you look at his numbers in January, he averaged 14, 5, and 3. He's been really great in his last 21 games, all starts. He started since the beginning of December. This guy's a stud, 6'6", 195. He's beginning to piece it together. They call him J-Dub. I have no idea what I'm doing tonight. Well, I think I have an idea. I think I'm going to try doing the Jalen Williams and the number for the listeners. Or by college. I don't know. Santa Clara. Anyway, haven't really decided yet. It's kind of weird having two Jalen Williams. And I'm the last one tried. So then they still have, two 2023 picks, a 2024 pick, a 2025 pick, a 2026 pick, all for that Paul George trade. That's their trade that, and then they moved Russell and their pieces. So they've done a similar model, and then Shai is the piece that has given them kind of their stud, and he's a stud at 30 points a game. What gets interesting here on them is, and this will get interesting depending on how the Jazz build it, and this is where I get nervous about this model, is Josh Giddey's been good, and Jalen Williams has now been good, and they're all going to kind of come to roost for money and contracts at the same time, and you've got to decide which ones you really think are worth the money. Like Josh Giddey's really good, but I'm not convinced I'm paying Josh Giddey like the max, and I'm not sure I want to really be using a massive, like Josh Giddey on a really good team. I'm not sure, honestly. I was down, and then I've watched him play late games, and he's great, and he makes his teammates better, and he does all sorts of things, and his three-point shooting's gone from 26% to 32%, but he really doesn't shoot the three well. He's pretty neat in the sense he gets 8 rebounds and 6 assists. Like, he's a neat player. Like him an awful lot. He's 6'8", he plays the point, he's long. There's a lot of reasons to love him. And the more you watch him and his ability to play late games, he does some pretty great things. The question then gets to be like, but great enough to be your number 2 guy? Is Shai good enough to be your number 1 guy? And then when Jalen Williams comes to roost, is that good? Like this, they all start coming at the same time. It gets difficult. I think chemistry-wise can get difficult, though. Having Shai as the number 1 guy is going to be interesting. Now, they're getting the experience of playing important games, right? They had back-to-back years, 2 years in where they were bad. They really dealt with it and bit the bullet. They were 22-50 in the 2021 year. They were 24-28 in the 21-22 year, and now they're hovering at 500. They only play, I think, 4 games left the rest of the way against top 10 teams. They play 11 games left against non-play-in teams. Like, there's every reason to believe Oklahoma City is making the play-in along the way. Now, 538 actually has them at just 38 wins, but I have a hard time. I actually think they end up, I would project them to make the play-in, be one of those teams that gets in. They have too soft a schedule, and they play too hard every night, and they're trying to get in. Basketball Reference, I would agree with a little bit more. They have them at 30 at the 8th team, playing New Orleans in the play-in at 42 wins. Like, that to me seems really reasonable. And then they may make the playoffs. Then they're playing Denver. they get that one, they win one of those games and they get Denver. Pretty incredible stuff for them in that third year of the rebuild without really getting all the benefits yet of all their picks because Chet Holmgren hasn't played this year. So really remarkable how far along they are. And I think the signatures, they've kind of found the way they want to play. These interchangeable parts defensively, switching, wrecking havoc, athletically elite, long defensive team. Lou Dort leading the way a lot on that. Jalen Williams can do that. And that's how they've kind of figured this out. The thing that's interesting also about them, by the way, is last 10 games, their offense is number 2 in the NBA. They put up 76 points in the first half against Houston, 72 points in the first half against Portland, 76 points in the first half against the Lakers in 3 of their last 4 games. So they may be discovering themselves offensively with both the Williams starting. Actually, all 3. Kendrick Williams, Jalen Williams, and Jalen Williams. Thanks, Sam Presti, for the biggest nightmare ever for a play-by-play announcer. But the Thunder are a little bit of our model. I think, before we deem them a wild and crazy success, I want to see one of these teams that's doing this rebuild get through the years in which all of the guys are coming to roost at the same time. And how do you manage that both in the locker room and financially? It's going to get super hard. But they're loaded with talent right now. And you're going to see it tonight. Guys just flying around the gym, doing impressive things, really elite athletically, and probably giving us a hard time. They're lacking some pieces. They don't have any pull-up shooting. Man is 31%. Isaiah Joe's their best. He's actually not great at that. He is the number 1 catch-and-shoot guy in the NBA, though. Watch it. Keep an eye on Isaiah Joe. This is where they've done a good job of getting people that have a unique skill that fit. And then they're the Shea Show. 20 of the shots are coming from Shea tonight, 14 from Giddey, 12 from Dort. So they need that next piece. Is it Chet Holmgren? Who is it? How long does it take to develop? Do they trade for it? Do they move picks to get it? It'll be interesting to watch what their next steps are along the way. But so right now, they're the model, right? Right now, they deserve all the flowers except for the fact that your flowers are for being 500 in your third year of a rebuild, which still means it's not to be critical. It just means that you have a very long road to go with multiple pitfalls possibly along the way before. All right, what to watch in the West in this final 22-game sprint and the impacts of the Jazz and others along the way. Today's show is brought to you by Nissan. Time for us to choose our Nissan Aria most electric player of the week. And we won't see him here for a little while, but I want to give it out to our guy Colin Sexton and the way he played for the last week. I just thought he was brilliant, fierce, stunningly powerful, absolutely fabulous with his just quest to get to the rack. Those are all the same characteristics of the Nissan Aria, the 2023 all-electric Nissan Aria. Packs pin you to your seat power. Premium intelligence all in one EV, the all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Aria, the EV for people who love to drive. Shop now at nissanusa.com, and Colin Sexton is our Nissan Aria Player of the Week for being the most electric player on the Jazz roster. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel, the number 1 sports book in America. Make every moment more at FanDuel.com/LockedOn. The NBA season sprint is upon us, and the no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from money line to point scores to threes drained. It's all there. Player props, a lot of fun. Get the parlays, all that. Gosh, I heard about a guy last night, local barber in town, who hit on 4 champs. I think it was the Warriors. I can't remember. Warriors. Anyway, he made buku. Plus, FanDuel lets you combine your bets for a chance to bigger payout in the same game parlay, so don't miss your chance to get no sweat first bet, $1,000 bet, and bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. If you're not going to do your second listen with Locked On Sports today, then I suggest it's time to start getting ready for the NBA draft with our friends over at Locked On NBA Big Board. That is Rafael Barlow, the rising star of the NBA draft, along with the grinder, Leaf Tulane, Richard Stamen, Sam Ferris, all there for you. A great crew of draft experts Locked On NBA Big Board, getting you ready for it. All right, what to watch in the West in the final stretch. First one, Jamal Murray. I think we're going to see a massive explosion from Jamal Murray in the final 22 games of the season that will solidify Denver as the unquestionable number one seed. Now, he did not play the final 6 games before the break. They gave him a little break, but you could see it coming. He went 32, 33, 41. Many years back, I looked at ACL guys of when do they get better, and it was because of Dante. They actually get better after the break. Any break they take where they're able to just kind of reset, reestablish themselves, they get better. I suspect Jamal Murray comes out absolutely flying here. Now, he had a knee issue. If he doesn't come out and play right away, I'll swing 100% the other way really fast. It's really disconcerting he doesn't play again after 7 days. But if he I suspect he'll be healthy for Denver. Keep an eye on him. I think Denver will be the number 1 seed this year, and I think he really solidifies them as, their guy. And I think that will be kind of the most interesting player to watch. The Lakers obviously have it, and frankly, the most important stretch of their season is the next 10 games. 7 games against 4 Western teams currently in play-in. 4 of those 7 are, including 2 home games, and the Warriors are their first 6 out of the break. Right now, the Lakers have to figure it out. They'll come out fresh. They will come out with AD and LeBron. They come out with Jared Vanderbilt and Malik Beasley now starting for them, and they are running out of time, frankly. If the Lakers are going to make this run, we just talked about it, you're going to have to get to 41 wins, unless multiple teams do it, and then you're going to have to get to 42. So for the Lakers, they have got to finish the year. They've played 59 games right now, so they have 13 left. They have to finish the year at 14-9 to get to 41. They're probably, to be secure, they got to go 15-8. And they open with the Warriors tomorrow or tonight. They then go to Dallas, then go to Memphis, then go to Oklahoma City. They drop like 3 of those 4. It's over already, which, by the way, has huge impact on the Jazz because we play 2 of our final 3 or 2 of our final 4 against the Lakers, 2 of our final 4. They could be out of it by the time we see them. That could chalk us up 2 more wins to get us in the play-in. Then the Lakers, if the Lakers can get through this 4-game gauntlet, then they come home for a 5-game stretch, all against good teams, but a chance to really make hay before going back out to New Orleans for a road game. So the Lakers season could be over, or it could be at full throttle right away. That is the team to watch. I know it's the Lakers. The other one I'm watching closely is Minnesota. I've been watching Minnesota for a while. They've looked close. With Mike Conley, they look way better. They play 13 of their 21 on the road to close the most road-heavy schedule of anyone. They have the most East-heavy schedule of anyone. They're below 500 against East. At some point, they should get Karl Anthony Towns back, but that team has not been great about assimilating players into the roster. They look to me like they're on the verge of being way better, and then they drop games that make you wonder what they're doing. Minnesota, to me, is a fascinating watch. Sacramento is another fascinating watch. For all the flowers and love they've gotten, they're 6-17 in their last 13 games. However, and they have so they're only 500 now. Sabonis has been playing. They have an interesting stretch. They're on the road a lot. Their schedule's not great the rest of the way. They have one of the more difficult schedules. I would kind of keep an eye on where they are and whether they hold this together. And this thing is so fragile, and I still wonder whether they have the confidence that if somehow at some point they start to fall apart, how far does it go? Right? That to me is the interesting one on Sac. Right now, Sac's in pretty good position. They're sitting, I think, 3rd or 4th in the West. Denver, Memphis, and then Sacramento at 32 and 25. But if the Clippers figure this out, they're right behind them. There's just a bunch of reasons why, if Sacramento continues to play 500 ball, makes me a little nervous. Sacramento's currently projected to have that 3rd seed, hold home court. But frankly, the difference between them and the 7th seed is 3 games. And so if they start dropping games they shouldn't, with a difficult schedule, the fact they've been 500 for the last 13, I'm not entirely, let's keep an eye. That's why. So those are the 4 teams for me to watch. Now, the Clippers are obviously interesting. They're 33-28. They've gotten rid of a lot of inefficient players. They've done some nice things to their roster. They have not, in games played against top 6 teams in the West this year, they're 4-8. Their 8 differentials -84. John Schumann, NBA.com. They're by far the worst of that group. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with them and whether we do it. So, and then from the Jazz standpoint, by the way, we're one of the only 3 teams, only 2 back-to-backs left to play. And frankly, one of our opponents, the Kings, I think plays a back-to-back on that. So we have these long trips, but we have a really soft kind of fatigue-wise schedule. And we'll see whether or not we can take advantage and just whether we have enough manpower to do it. But important games the rest of the way are what we want. Learning experiences continue, and hopefully we make a play-in game and get to be a part of it. How fun would that be to play a one and done in the NBA? So happy to be back. Jazz Thunder tonight. Ron Boone and I will be back with you on Instagram at 4:45 today or so at DLocke09. Please join us. Then we'll be pregame show start at 6 on the radio with Jake Scott and Tim Lacombe. Ron and I will be with you at 7 for tip-off. And the Jazz and the Thunder, the first of 3. And tune in to hear how I possibly call Jalen Williams, and Kendrick Williams all at the same time on the floor. That'll be fun. See ya.